Iranian Affairs analyst and is joining us now from Berlin. Ali Fathollah-Nejad, good to have you with us here on the News Hour. Now, I wonder first up, do you think people are being too cynical in suggesting that Mr. Raisi's election is a foregone conclusion?
No, not at all, actually. So this time around, the Guiding Council, as you suggested in your report, did a lot of disqualifications and also did not allow for the kind of competitive race that we've seen over the last few years. There was usually a choice put to the Iranian people between the lesser evil, which are the moderates or the reformists, and the larger evil, which would be the hardliners. But this time around, given the reformist factions' crisis of legitimacy, because they could not deliver what they had promised to the Iranian people under the current presidency of Hassan Rouhani, it's quite clear that it's much easier for the conservatives to win. And of course, the centers of power in the Islamic Republic have very much, are very much favoring such an outcome, which is the monopolization of power in the Islamic Republic by the hardliners.
And before we come on to the hardliners and the clerics, let's just have a conversation about Mr. Rouhani. There was so much promise when he came into office. I don't think that promise was misplaced in my reading of it. So what did happen to bring him, as some reports are saying, to some of the lowest opinion polls of any leader of the Iranian Republic?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. You're right. I mean, this is what I was, trying to say, which is that President Rouhani was not able to make good on its promises in the socioeconomic field, but also on the political field.
But sorry, just to interrupt, was that his fault, or was that as a result of the sanctions that were imposed by the United States?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. And the problem was that the Rouhani administration put all of their baskets onto the nuclear deal and the economic dividends that would come out of it. And once the economic dividends did not come through, not because only of US sanctions, but also because of the very political economy of the Islamic Republic, where 80% of the economic dividends from the JCPOA, from the Iran nuclear deal, actually went to regime entities. So there was early on quite a lot of social frustration with among Iranians, which then paved the way for two nationwide uprisings, revolutionary uprisings against the state under his watch. So it's a combination of factors of his own, misguided policies, of other centers of power in the Islamic Republic, and the role of US sanctions.
I mean, you mentioned those revolutionary uprisings. They were huge uprisings a couple of years ago against the government of Rouhani. As we're about to see perhaps the coronation of Ebrahim Raisi, a much more hardline politician, much more in line with the clerics, is it likely then we will see more street protests, and what kind of form will those street protests take?
Very good question, because we're going to see the persistence of what I call the triple crisis in the Islamic Republic. Those are a socioeconomic crisis with, the lower classes who took to the streets, who are very much disillusioned from the system, but also an increasingly impoverished middle class, a political crisis that basically no one actually believes anymore in the system, in various factions of the system, and also in the ability of the system to reform. And last but not least, also an ecological crisis. And we've seen over the past, in the recent past, that actually the period between those two, uprisings is getting closer, is getting, smaller. So also the next president, Ebrahim Raisi, has to face a probable resurgence of those street protests, because it's really unlikely that the regime will be able to fully satisfy the needs from the people, be they economic or political.
Precisely. Okay, Ali Fathollah-Nejad, I do appreciate your analysis, sir. Thanks for being with us.